You step off the plane into the heavy, humid air of northern Thailand. The noise of Chiang Mai is immediate. Tuk-tuks rev their engines. Street vendors shout across crowded night markets. Notifications ping incessantly from the device in your pocket. This is your baseline. This is the noise you breathe every single day. But tomorrow, that all stops. You are about to enter a meditation retreat where the rules are absolute. No talking, no eye contact, no reading, no writing. And perhaps most terrifying for a modern human, no phone. For 30 days, your reality will shrink to a small room, a meditation cushion, and the deafening roar of your own thoughts. At first, the silence is a physical shock. You sit, you breathe, and immediately your mind rebels. It screams for stimulation. It demands the dopamine drip of a flashing screen, the comfort of casual conversation, the illusion of control that comes from constant connection. Your brain starts manufacturing emergencies just to feel something. Why do we panic when the world goes quiet? Because without external noise, we are forced to confront the internal chaos we spend our lives trying to drown out. For the first week, your brain acts like an addict in withdrawal. It fixates on phantom problems. It replays old arguments. It rehearses future conversations that will never happen. You feel a desperate, clawing urge to do something, anything, just to escape the stillness. You realize that your default state is not peace. Your default state is a frantic search for the next input. Psychiatrist and neuroscientist Dr. Judson Brewer has mapped exactly what is happening in your head during this phase. His research on the brain's default mode network reveals that our minds are wired to constantly wander, often defaulting to anxiety and self-referential craving. When you remove the phone and the talking, you force this network into a corner. You watch the craving rise, peak, and fade. You learn the hardest lesson of the first week. You do not have to react to every signal your brain sends you. This is a profound realization. In the modern world, we equate stillness with stagnation. We believe that if we aren't constantly moving, consuming, or reacting, we are falling behind. But in the silence, you discover that true clarity only emerges when the dust settles. As the second and third weeks pass, the mental static begins to clear. The desperate need for external input fades. It is replaced by a strange, spacious calm. You start to notice the subtle rhythms of your own mind. You see the patterns of fear. You observe the sudden spikes of ego. You witness the relentless human desire for certainty in a completely uncertain world. And then, sitting there in the humid quiet, you make the connection. The internal chaos you have been observing is exactly the same as the external chaos of the world. The panic you felt on the cushion is the exact same panic that drives crowd behavior. The urge to react blindly is the same impulse that fuels irrational decisions. Think about a chart mapping a complex system over time, like the financial markets. The jagged peaks and valleys represent pure emotion. Greed, fear, panic, elation. Most people get swept up in these violent swings. They react to every tick, every breaking headline, every meaningless blip of noise. They are trapped in the volatility. But the silence teaches you to step back. It teaches you to zoom out. You learn to watch the line move without feeling compelled to jump on it. This becomes your ultimate advantage when you return to a world governed by hyperspeed data. Consider the absolute frenzy of modern market microstructure. Millions of transactions happening in milliseconds. The explosion of 0 days to expiration contracts creating sudden, violent movements intraday. It is a system designed to overwhelm human processing. When massive levels of gamma exposure start shifting, the pressure in the system builds. Dealer positioning gets caught offside. The market violently squeezes, hunting for liquidity. To the untrained eye, this looks like pure chaos. It looks like the world is falling apart. Most people panic. Their primitive amygdala hijacks their brain. They see a sudden price spike or a violent drop, and they react out of pure survival instinct. They buy the top. They sell the bottom. They let the noise dictate their actions. But if you have trained your mind in 30 days of silence, you understand the mechanics behind the movement. You don't see a terrifying red candle on a chart. You see a temporary imbalance in dealer positioning. You see the hidden structure, the fundamental realities that others are too panicked to see. Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman demonstrated that humans are fundamentally irrational when faced with uncertainty. His work on prospect theory proves that we are hardwired to overreact to short-term threats and underreact to long-term probabilities. We feel the pain of a loss twice as intensely as the joy of a gain. Our biology fights against our logic. In the silence, you learn to short-circuit this biological hardwiring. You train your prefrontal cortex, the logical, rational part of the brain, to override the primitive fear center. You build a psychological buffer between a stimulus and your response. Dr. Brett Steenbarger, a clinical psychologist who works with elite institutional traders, emphasizes this exact mechanism. His research shows that the most successful performers possess a heightened capacity for self-observation, or what he calls the internal observer. They can detach from their immediate emotional state and view their own minds objectively. They recognize when they are tilting. They don't try to suppress the fear or the greed. They simply observe it, label it, and refuse to let it sit in the driver's seat. This is exactly what you practiced for 30 days in Thailand. You sat with the unbearable urge to move, and you didn't move. You sat with the crushing weight of boredom, and you didn't check out. You learned how to hold space for extreme discomfort. When the rest of the world is caught in a frenzy, reacting wildly to the latest piece of information, you remain perfectly still. You wait for the noise to subside. You don't react to the squeeze. You anticipate the release. Day 30 finally arrives. You pack your few belongings. You step out of the retreat center and back into the chaotic streets of Chiang Mai. The tuk-tuks are still revving. The vendors are still shouting. You pull your phone out of your bag and turn it on for the first time in a month. A massive flood of notifications hits the screen. Emails, messages, alerts, news flashes. The world is just as loud, just as frantic, just as volatile as it was when you left. But you are different. You realize that the goal was never to escape the noise. That is impossible. The goal was to change your relationship with it. The goal was to build an internal stillness so deep that external volatility can no longer shake you. Tomorrow morning, you will sit down in front of your screens. The numbers will flash. The charts will violently swing. The noise of the world will be deafening. But you won't react. You will just breathe, watch, and wait for the true signal to emerge from the static. Because tonight, when the sun goes down, you're going to realize that the only noise that ever truly mattered was the noise inside your own head.